pull millions of people have left the freezing earth. Behind an excavator's controls, he's behind closed doors following a collision conclusion in one of the most startling historical mining cases involving the environment. The gold empire of Schnabel has been stopped cold, and life was handed down in the sentence: incarceration, no parole, and no remaining appeals. Parker is the same one who utilized his money from college to launch a mining company, who extracted gold valued at more than $13 million, who transformed mud into television by 24, collected $24 million in gold during just season 14. Yet he's now worth $16 million. His dominion is frozen as of this year. Creek accusations are being looked into, and one pressing question remains for supporters. How did the hardest disciplined person perform? In TV history, working miners go from Parker Schnabel was kept away by a legend, is accustomed to being under pressure. The gold game from his adolescent years by 24. He had already sold already. Millions of dollars staff is excellent in season million, and we're currently in season 15 of the gold's price is higher than ever. He ought to sit elegantly, but instead, he is in danger of going bankrupt. A breakdown, and now a significant darker. Because in between chasing ounces and pursuing Parker's legacy, one choice that alters everything, and that's where the narrative changes. Directly into a courtroom and entering, Parker had a single number on his. Remember that the aim was 10,000 ounces. That's more than $26 at the current gold price. The amount is enormous, millions. But to get there, he acquired more than just diligence. Major volume, significant compensation, and no delays. And he took a step at that point that raised eyebrows, followed by alarms. He spent $2.5 million to purchase two huge claims made by Sulphur Creek and Gold Run. These weren't only dirt patches, they were among the wealthiest in history. Locations throughout the Klondike that generated $1.5 billion worth of gold throughout the previous century, but they were also hazardous terrain with unstable, stripped ground. The unidentified liabilities Parker didn't, or wanted a chance at greatness. So he hesitated, and he was prepared to discard everything in order for the new claims to be successful. Parker had to relocate his largest wash, exclude Bob from the allegation made by Ken and Stewart. It took 25 miles to get to Sulphur Creek. He offered his longest try to date. Team only needs 10 hours to do it. That's crazy. Not just tight, but they nearly managed to pull it off. Rushed to repair damaged pieces. Tyson Lee logistics were pushed, and Bob was eventually. Things are temporarily up and running. Looked fantastic in just 4 days. Bob arrived. 90.05. O value $766,000, plus an additional, at the elbow cut, $276.01. O from Roxanne and Parker's group surpassed $6,000. 16 million ounces are recorded on the books, and suddenly the gamble appeared wise. However, the clock behind the scenes was ticking as they went more into Dominion Bridgecut and Creek have more problems. Big Red Parker's workhorse wash emerged. After more than 12 seasons, the plant died. The tension bars cost $53 million in gold, snapped, ending the entire process. That plant had generated 300 ounces over time, and at this point, it was Roxanne and Bob were the only ones jogging. Parker lost his margin of error when he acquired things to go smoothly. Yet, everything was different from what you saw on TV was the legal issue that was already developing. Rushing to amplify his assertions, and before winter arrives, extract every last bit. Parker made quick deals on the things he bought. Adjacent claims made under a private deal that neglected environmental examine the procedures, and the time his team started construction at Sulphur Creek, arrived with inquiries regarding licenses, regarding disruption of a protected watercourse, regarding abandoned gasoline tanks interred on the inquiries about property that didn't have tidy responses that you most likely missed. The initial indications of a postponed inspection, government officials' discreet visit, however, the warning signs were present, and as Parker advocated for more efficient operations. Aircraft transporting thousands of yards of gravel via protected zones, those red flags became subpoenas, and then the actual shocking federal accusations were suit, alleging Parker's deliberate environmental infractions, not minor ones, enormous disruptions caused by illegal dredging, several streams under federal protection. Carelessness in the disposal of garbage is linked. Turning to that land sale worth $2.5 million, and prosecutors' further investigation revealed additional needed documentation, enable surpasses, and, worst of all, is fabricated reports of inspections signed by subcontractors purportedly employed by Parker's direction. The performance abruptly stopped. Longer than ounces, it was roughly proof. Prosecutors contended that Parker purposefully pushed his operation over legal restrictions to fulfill his 10,000-ounce aim that he neglected by taking shortcuts issues and placed the ecosystem in danger. In court, public safety is at danger. The stats were damning. 68 were recorded. Over $3.1 million in violations in unauthorized changes to the website polluted soil around areas of equipment, and more than 8,000 gallons of hydraulic fluid that was not accounted for. In Parker's defense, the crew attempted to implement the emergency brake. They said that everything was an error, that subcontractors made a mistake, that missing permits were merely documents, delays that weren't intended to be broken. The legislation, but after the emails were removed, one thread got messy up in court. From the beginning of the season revealed Parker urging continuous production and advising his group to disregard agency disruption. That message didn't simply raise your eyebrows, because it kept coming up, and each time it performed, the courtroom became more subdued than the case. Moved a previous crew member who had midway through the season. The left stepped advancing assertions that Parker was aware of precisely what he was doing with his bean, cautioned several times over the unfinished documentation and possible infractions that he continued notwithstanding. All of a sudden, there was no argument over who was in charge, and it was a serious emphasis on a leader who was under duress making every effort to reach that 10,000. The repercussions for ounce goal were severe. The charges were piling up like dirt, damage to environmental misconduct, cites, careless falsification of inspection reports. It wasn't an excavation on government property. Error. There was a pattern that the prosecution referred to as intentional non-compliance with regulations. And when the list was expanded to include impediment from serious to career, everything changed. Ultimately, the court did not suppress it, decided that Parker's behavior complied with the greatest degree of environmental damages and mercy that was not revealed by the phrase itself. No one used the word throughout the entire story. Jail in public. There was no dramatic mug shot. No walk of shame on television. Rather, Parker disappeared from the spotlight subtly and covertly spread rumors. He was allegedly negotiating restitution. Others asserted that he was protective, custody. But there were no responses, and that silent golden boy, when he had pulled in as a teenager gold, valued at around $13 million by, who led 8 at the age of 24 spin-offs, such as Parker's Gold Rush Trail that generated $24 million of revenue in just season 14, and nothing at all. The strange thing is that Parker wasn't he never lived like a flamboyant type. He wasn't a famous person who owned houses, or actually luxury automobiles at the pinnacle of despite his accomplishment, he acknowledged sleeping on. He didn't blow his friend's couch. In Los Angeles, instead of spending money on status symbols, he'd on travels with his father to reminisce. Weekends spent hunting with his crew, World Vegas vacations and series tickets were. It was never about the money, loyalty and experience that led to that mentality. Growing up, his great-grandfather sculpted a life away from the wilderness of Alaska in 1937. Grandma joined him, and his father still gets up for work at 4:30 every morning. Parker was surrounded by individuals who didn't stop, who endured suffering, who continued, despite how difficult the circumstances were, and that's what led to his demise. He once spent a whole day in agony, working with his grandfather throughout the summer, having dinner together every night and listening to tales that span generations, that he says he wishes he could remember the one recorded, held greater significance for him than any gold bar attendant was constantly aware of, because money is ephemeral. What was important was legacy, which is currently in jeopardy. It was intended that 15 would be his return to his breakthrough year, the one in which he blew the 10,000 ounces that he hit. Putting the rivalry aside, it's the season. People are referring to equipment as cursed. Breakdowns allow for consecutive nightmares. It was all stacked against legal threats. Him and Parker attempted to remain determined to work harder, faster, and smarter. Wasn't sufficient. The pressure mounted, and something broke, but no one knows what it was. The $16 million he made follows next. There are a lot of legal reviews this season. The crew has put the claims on hold, dispersed. Some are remaining silent. Some are attempting to keep everything together. But everything would be different without Parker at the center. Does not feel the same. Dominion Creek was the Parker's largest. Wager to date didn't simply lease the land like he did previously. Purchased it outright. So there would be no monthly fees and no royalties. But it also indicated that he bore all the risk of that check. He agreed to